Hey dudes, Khraze here, back into Marvel's Avengers, and today let's take a look at the best new farming methods that you're going to want to do in patch 1.30. And there's a good reason for that. Some of the old ones have been removed or nerfed, and in the process we also got a few new ones that actually make it much better to get some of the best jobs in the game. And to top it all off, we also have the brand new Mega Hive that has just been added, and I also want to talk about that in this video. So if you enjoyed this, a thumbs up on it would be super awesome, and let's jump right into it. I also want to give a huge shout out to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video once more. Instant Gaming sells games at some of the best prices you can find around, so if you also enjoy big gaming discounts, definitely go ahead and check out their website by following my links in the description box down below. So let's begin with a few of the methods that don't work anymore or have been completely nerfed. And the most obvious one is the guaranteed patterns from the faction missions. They have been completely removed both in online and offline mode as per Dynamics' latest statement on the matter. So yes, this was a bug and it was never intended to reward patterns so consistently. On the same page, also the faction missions no longer drop guaranteed legendaries at the end of them, but only in the online mode, because if you go in the offline, it still actually works. So the missions that I actually recommend you doing are Bad Blood, Day of the Remains, especially Day of the Remains, and even more so Out of the Shadows. These are missions that take no more than 6 to 7 minutes to complete, and they provide guaranteed legendaries at the end of them, assuming that you complete them with 5 stars. They can also be done on only challenge 2, but as I've said, they don't drop those patterns anymore. Speaking of playing offline mode, the Polycoron method still kinda partially works, so you can get the missions first in the online and complete the assignments over there, then you can turn the game off and play it in offline, and you can get another set of daily Polycoron missions again and complete them in that mode too. But it seems that changing the date in the future has been partially fixed, because trying to do it too many times, eventually it's not going to give you any of these daily faction assignments anymore. So I think that in a couple more patches this is going to be fully addressed. But with that being said and done, let's talk about some of the brand new methods and the ones that I actually recommend you the most if you want to get the best loot in the game. And I want to start things off with a brand new one that I'm actually really excited and glad that it now finally works even in the online mode, and these are the elite villain sectors that previously only gave kind of like epics at the end of them. So now they can actually have a really high chance to also provide named legendaries, and they also seem to have a decent chance at additional DNA keys. And these are the permanent versions, not the daily ones that you get from faction missions, so this makes them so much better. You can also finish these on just challenge 2 as long as you finish it with 5 stars, and it doesn't take more than 10 minutes to complete one of these. But most important, you get some of those named legendaries at the end of them, which are some of the best legendaries in the game. I've already covered this in the past, but you will want actually these, since they seem to have better stat and perk combinations that usually fit the high-end builds much better than regular old legendaries that you end up shifting and destroying anyway. This also brings us to the second one, which is going to be vault completion, and I don't actually mean the chest runs, but actually finishing the main objective altogether. Yes, you can still complete those chests and still go ahead and pick them up. It's still going to be better to just do it on challenge 4, and on the same matter, I recommend doing either the desert or the forest ones, since they seem to have a much higher concentration of chests in more compact areas, so it might be much faster if you do it instead of the snowy tundra. But I was talking about finishing the main objective, and this is something that you're going to want to do again for the same reason that you're going to want to complete elite villain sectors, and that is because it gives you a named legendary at the end. It can also be done on challenge 2, by the way, and it doesn't take more than 10 to 12 minutes to finish one of these. And by the way, on the same note, elite versions of them also work, and they're a much better choice than the regular versions, especially since they are permanently activated on your war table and you don't actually have to go in and rediscover their coordinates over and over again. Moving on to number 3, we have another brand new method that now just works in update 1.30, which are the drop zones, especially since drop zones are now made so that they also drop 130 gear drops at the end of them. So what I suggest you guys doing is doing these if you are searching specifically for guaranteed minor artifacts, which sometimes they're really hard to get since usually they drop alongside the gear, usual gear, and this means that they have a lower chance to to actually be found. So the best ones for these currently are the communication nexus in the Utah Badlands, but really any sabotage drop zone is actually going to work just fine because it takes no more than 2 minutes to actually complete. The reason for that is because what you need to do in this is to just sabotage some turbines, and as soon as the last turbine is destroyed, the mission is finished, even if you never touched any of the enemies. So what you're going to want to do here is to just ignore all of the enemies in the first tunnel, head over in the second room with the main objective, and from here on just focus on the 4 turbines that you're going to want to destroy, and just go ahead, destroy these, and once that's done, the mission is going to be complete and you're going to get your reward at the end of it. Again, do any sabotage drop zone if you want to complete this in the shortest amount of time possible. This finally brings us to our last bit, and let's talk about these brand new mega hives. Of course, it goes without saying that every daily or weekly content that gets added in Marvel's Avengers should be completed as soon as possible, as these provide the best rewards in the game. These include the daily villain sectors, the weekly priority missions, and of course the newly added weekly mega hives. Also, elite heroic hives is going to be more consistent for high-end loot with the abundance of high-end enemies, and of course the slight chance of getting those exotics for finishing them. So you might want to combine these on a daily basis too, and on a weekly basis once they drop. But let's talk about the mega hives, since these are the new addition. They also seem to be rather different than what we currently have in the game in the sense of the mechanics surrounding them. So this isn't going to be a single continuous dungeon as we previously thought, but rather it's a complete challenge track, or should I say quest chain, that is available once per week. And in it you basically have to complete a mega hive about 8 times in a row to progress through the associated weekly challenge and eventually finish it. Every new hive in the chain, which is a new instance that you repeat, is going to become increasingly more difficult, but as a result it also seems to provide increasingly better rewards, especially at the end of them. And this includes, yes, both patterns as well as legendaries, with a very small chance at getting exotics too. What you need to know about these is that they are kinda like a single player content, as in you play with your existing heroes and with your party of heroes. The gimmick here is, as I've said in previous videos, is that once one of your heroes die, you're actually going to be forced to switch to a different one in your roster up until nobody is left to play with. So you're going to kind of be forced to have at least a couple of these that are strong enough to push through the number 8 of the chain of quests, but I don't think you're gonna have to do all 6 of them and have all of them at 150. I basically completed the entire chain with only 2 characters, and the reason for that was because one of them died by accident. I'm pretty sure I could have just finished this with only one of them, but if you play on challenge 4, then yes, maybe you're going to need to level up and get geared as many of them as possible. But nonetheless, if any of your heroes dies in the middle of a mission, you can continue from that checkpoint and you can continue with a next character, and likewise the same applies picking the next hive in the track. So if anybody dies in a previous hive, you can only continue with the ones that are still alive for the rest of the quests in the chain, which kind of raise a good question, and that is, what happens if all of the heroes die before the challenge track gets completed? I haven't noticed what this happens because I was able to successfully complete mine, but I'm pretty sure that if all of your characters die, you're not going to be able to complete it for that week, so you have to be careful for that. By the way, you also can do this on challenge 2, so there's no reason to not play it on the lesser difficulty. Now the rewards can be quite enticing. Not only do you get rewards for completing each of the hives in the sequence, they get increasingly better, but you also get the ones that are guaranteed for completing it in the first place. So you get those legendaries, the guaranteed ones from finishing the quest chain. You get about 50 polycoron, about 50 upgrade modules, and if my math isn't too wrong, about 2400 fragments, both from the ones that you get from the regular ones that you complete in the chain and from the final challenge being completed altogether. So quite a nice reward, and a weekly challenge that doesn't take more than a couple of hours to fully complete. But anyway, this is it with some of the best new farming methods that you're going to want to do in patch 1.30. Of course, if anything changes in the future, I am going to keep you guys updated. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video at any point, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.